Hey, and welcome to another firefly beading tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how I re-knot using a mystery clasp. So I'm redoing a repair here, something that broke. And I've got my griffin silk right here. I'm going to put a knot at the end away from the needle. I explain how to use this silk in another video that I'll post down below. But in the meantime, I'll just quickly go over this. So the knot goes at the end away from your needle. You pre-stretch your cord, and then you put a dab of glue on the knot. While this knot is drying, I'm going to show you the parts of the mystery clasp. So you've got one large hole purl with a small hole on the back. This is where the screw is going to glue inside. So it looks like this. Then you've got a purl that you could pass through your thread twice. And you also have another purl with threads already on it, and on the back side of that is a small hole. So I'm going to take the thread purl and the larger hole purl and put it here. I'm going to keep that large hole purl with the small hole out. So I'm going to cut off this, and I'll explain this as we go. But here we go. This is the large hole with the small hole in the back. So you're going to take this large hole purl and put your needle through the large hole with the small hole in the back end. So this way your knot can go and suck up basically inside of this hole. So it's hidden inside of here. Now you want to put your first knot right next to this purl. And I go over the tweezer method in some other videos that I'll post down below. So if this doesn't make sense to you, you can watch some of those to understand this tweezer method. And then I'm just going to take a next purl in the pattern here, put that guy on, and bring that down, and put a knot beside that. So now I'm just going to keep on knotting my necklace all the way to the end. So my knot goes up tight against here, and like I said, I'm doing a repair of something that broke, so this is already knotted. So I have to cut each knot off, and I do that with flush cutters like this. You don't want to scrape your purl, you just want to cut the knot right between the knot and the purl. So these flush cutters come in handy. And I cut it one at a time and lay them in a straight line so that I could put them back in a correct pattern. And for me, you know, threading them all first before knotting helps. So this is just a quick show of how that helps. So you do your knot, and then you can just simply slide down a purl and knot again. So I think this method is a little bit faster. It doesn't always work, but I find it helps me to do it this way. And then you don't have to worry about cutting and threading and cutting and threading. You just do it all at once. So I'm going to bring down this knot. So it looks like this. So again, I'm just going to cut everything and lay them in a straight line. And then thread them on, and then knot in between each one, all the way until I have one purl left that I need to put on, not including the ones in my bag here that I put away at the beginning. Okay, so I'm at the end here. So I've got a knot here, and then I've got one little purl left, so I'm going to thread that guy on. But now I'm going to go ahead and open this bag, and I've got these two purls in here, but I also have a tiny little link from a chain. I'll show you that in a second. So a little tiny metal piece. So this is that larger hole purl I was telling you about that I could pass the thread through twice. So we're going to pull this last purl on right here, and no knot right there. So I'm going to slide on this larger hole purl, and then I'm going to take the thread purl and go from the small side out through the thread part. So you could see your threads when you look down where the screw would go into. So you should have knot, no knot, no knot. Now we have this tiny little piece right here. It's basically a link to a chain. You could use a piece of French wire. So it looks like this. It's a little loop, little chain link, no opening. So basically a circle that I'm just going to pull on. It's very small, just barely enough to fit over my thread. I'm going to bring that down. That's a very important piece, this little guy right here. You can hardly see it. It's very important that you have something like this on here. Okay. Because basically it's going to stop your thread from coming out of this purl on this next part. So we're going to pull everything down, and then I'm going to take my needle and go through just the first purl. Okay. And I try to get it started by straightening everything out and then giving a little tug on my needle. And then from there, you don't want to pull the needle, you only want to pull your thread so you don't put any more pressure on that needle where the silk attaches. So I kind of pinch the third pearl down and I rest my hand on the thread and pull. So the back of my hand is actually resting on that thread. And still this happens. You see how it curls up? So I take my tweezers and I put it between. Kind of lay it like this. Then I'm going to hold this backside pearl that's stable. Let me see, like this. Gently pull my thread through until my loop gets smaller. I just really want to make sure nothing's tangling. And that little ring from the chain, or that little tiny ring I was telling you about, is already inside of this large hole pearl. So I'm just going to give a little yank like this. Okay, good. So that means it's caught onto that little loop that's inside. So now my thread is secure in there. But I need a knot between these two pearls, so I'm just going to go like around and back and then through. And then I just pull this tail and I keep these threads between those two pearls. So right between those two pearls until it cinches up beside them, nestles up. Now this part can be a little tricky, so that's why you need a larger hole pearl here that can fit your thread through twice. So this next pearl is where we have to push it down in there, get our needle through, pop it through, and then don't pull the needle anymore. Remember, just pull your thread now. That's really the hardest part about going back through, is that double right there. So again, I'm going to place my tweezers here so that my cord doesn't get too knotted as I continue to pull this thread through. There we go, and you'll feel it pop in place. So you got your knot. Now we need a knot between these two pearls because there's no knot. So just like we did before, a little overhand knot. So I go around between the pearls and then through. And then I pull everything up beside there. Give it a good tug, make sure that knot is tight. So now you have knots between every pearl. Then you're going to take your hypo cement and you're just going to dab it a few times on this first knot we had here. So that's the end one. And I kind of turn everything around and make sure I'm getting that glue in there good. You can clean it off the pearl before it dries. And I like to put a little bit of this glue actually on the tail of my thread as well. And that way when I cut it, like I'm about to do right here, when I cut close, it's a nice, it doesn't fray right away. So there is a little bit of glue on this tail so I can get up nice and close to my knot and then cut. Okay, and then it stays stiff so you can see the threads there. I'm going to actually cut just a little bit more of this. There you go. You basically want to not see that tail there. Alright, so we've got both pieces on, and I've got two little pieces in here. I only need one. So this is the screw that I'm going to glue into place. You'll see threads on one side and then kind of a smooth area on the other. So I'm going to grab the threads and I'm going to take the smooth side of this little prong here. Put some E6000 on there. And I'm really going to just set it into that large hole. So the opposite side of where the threads are. So this is the screw part. I'm going to clean up some glue here. This screw is going to go into the threads on the other side. So basically I just glued it into the very first pearl we put onto this necklace. You want to let this dry, I say about 24 hours. So I've come back to it and now we're going to test it. You want to make sure this screws all the way on and that the screw doesn't come out at all from where you glued it. So that means the glue is nice and secure in there, so nothing's moving. And that is that. So that's how you use a mystery clasp. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and we hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please hit like or subscribe to learn more beading techniques just like this. Happy beading from us at Firefly.